have an amazing afternoon, packed with fantastic speakers. But before we get started, I have a few thank yous to share. First off, a massive thank you to Brianna and Mr. IT standing right back there. Thank you to Assembly and to Stagwell for making this space available. A massive thanks to Christy and the Odeon team for the incredible lunch and the food outside. Woo! And last, not least, a big thanks to Anna, Jeff, Haley, Diksha, and everyone from the OAAA. My name is Ashwini. I am the practice leader for media data tech at the 4A's. I see a lot of our members here, so I'm glad you're able to make it. And this is our first ever event with the OAAA for out of home. We decided to do this because a lot of our members, we are purposely calling it the medium of the moment. Out of home seems to has always been an innovative moment, but it seems to be having a resurgence of sorts because of everything being awesome and literally out of home across the board. We have a discussion with Meta later on about glasses. Like there's just so much stuff happening, and so we decided with the OAAA to really explore innovation in this specific medium. Hear from a lot of suppliers, sell-side partners, technology partners, agencies about how to think about our out-of-home overall. This event is being recorded. We are hoping to share it with all our members later on to really, give them ideas about how to think about out-of-home as they move along. So I'll stop blabbering. I can go on forever. I love this medium. I'm going to hand it over to Jeff, my partner in crime in setting this up. Quick intro, and then we would love to kick it off with a fireside chat.
Thank you everyone for coming today. I mean, the thank yous, of course, to all the members here joining us as we in the week. I think you basically did everything I needed here, so I'm just going to fold this in half. Thank you. No, it's all good. I mean, medium of the moment, it's harnessing the growth mindset. It's bringing the perspectives from multiple angles so that we are looking at driving growth for this advertising industry, but also what and how does out of home fit within the overall mix, but through the lens of creativity. So we're really excited with the folks we have today. Thank you to all our speakers. And we're going to make sure that we have some time towards the end for a little bit more networking, but you guys all did that with some lunch as well. So we're really happy again. And so without further ado, I want to introduce and welcome our first fireside, Anna Bagger, our President and CEO of OAAA, and Susan Cradle, Global Chair of FCB, and of course, the creative icon who's going to really help shape what medium of the moment means and beyond. So welcome.
Okay. Hopefully I can manage. A lot of thank yous here. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ashwini and the 4A's for doing this in partnership with us. It's so important that we collaborate and we work together. We have a lot of good work to do. And thank you, of course, to Stagwell. This is awesome and very beautiful. So I am so excited to be here and really excited to be here with you because you really are a creative icon and definitely one of my favorites in the industry. So thank you for joining us. I was thinking about it as I was writing in this morning. We had an amazing prep call, super fun. We talked about a lot of different things, and I have a lot of questions for you, but I know we have very little time, so I have to squeeze it into something. So hopefully we can make sense of this, but really good to have you here. Again, the theme of this event is creativity as a KPI, and I think in out of home, we really lead with creativity. It's the thing that makes the medium truly stand out. But I want to ask you as an expert, do you think that it is a good KPI, and how should we think about it?
I think creativity applied to anything is an economic multiplier. Anytime you do something that I think creativity takes the invisible and makes it visible. And I can't think of any place that you need to break through and be visible than outdoor. So at FCB, we have a way of looking at anything we do. And I mean, I would even say like a meeting like this, I go, were we creative enough? Did we do things that people will remember? And we always look at it as, when I look at work, I'm like, is it damaging? Today, we really have to be careful about understanding, what are we putting out there? Is it invisible? This is one that I think is important to any medium, but think about, will you, especially in outdoor, will you walk by and miss it? That's a problem. And then 3 is noticed. Like, oh, that's interesting. But then where we really want to play is, when I look at work, and is it provocative? And when I say provocative, did they do something curious with the medium that I wasn't expecting? Did they put something up there that got my attention? Did they distill something down to something unforgettable? And then the next thing we look at is there a way to co-create? And I think this is a new world for me, for outdoor, because with data and technology, the co-creation becomes, incredible, like where your creativity can go. And then finally, are we building a platform that we can build on top of, which is brand building? And I think that you look at those 6 numbers when you're looking at a piece of outdoor, and what is it? And I think that we were saying earlier, is like the thing I love about outdoor is, as I watch people engaging in TV and online film, they're swiping and moving and running and whatever. I've never seen anybody run past an outdoor message. Like, oh, I gotta get away from that. It's like, no, it's right there. So your outdoor is like, all you have to do is get them to slow down or stop. So will your creative make them slow down or stop? And if you apply creativity to any of these spaces, I think your KPI is gonna go way up.
For sure. So, but that's the trick, right? Like, you have the full canvas to work with. And yes, people are not gonna, well, hopefully not gonna run past it.
They're not running past it.
There might be some really bad examples, but for the most part, not, right? But you as an expert, and we had a long conversation about it, I thought it was fascinating when we had our call. How do you do that? Like, what's the method to make people stop? How do you think about it?
I think when you're creative, and I think this is an interesting thing that AI is going to help with, is that the first thing I do as a creative is almost like a brain dump. So I look at what's the message, what's the brief, what are the assets we can play with. I think, if you think about the work that was celebrated this year in our industry and outdoor, like the recycle Coca-Cola work, that's just looking at what are my brand assets that I can play with. And then the question is, will the client be brave enough to let us kind of jump past our trademark? And as you listen to Coca-Cola, they're like, you know what, our brand, our global brand recognition allows us to allow people to play with our trademark. But looking at all and this is an important thing for, I think, clients, is that a medium like outdoor is much more powerful if you have a brand, and if you have brand assets that people already know, so that when you hack them or play with them. British Airways, the bravery of just having people looking out from a billboard and makes you feel, as you're walking by, the joy of flying. They didn't even put their whole logo on that outdoor. So the stronger brands, I think, can distill down to being very impactful creatively.
Well, we hear that. We have a brand council that Christine, who's going to speak soon, serves on. And we've heard several times in different permutations of it, but we're like, why don't you buy more out of home? Why don't you do more out of home? And first of all, it's viewed a little bit complicated, but the creativity is the strong part, but they're always looking for a big idea. So the question is, like, how do you get that big idea? And how do you balance creativity and a big idea with things that you need now? More data, more insights, more technology, more performance metrics. So how do you think about that from sort of the get-go?
Well, I think what you're asking is more, how do I justify that this is a good investment from a media standpoint? Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is just, y'all know this better than I do, but as far as it's very important for creatives to understand, where's this going, who's walking by, who's going to experience it. I remember we did a long copy ad in the subways when we were introducing this new telecom company to New York City. It was called Singular Wireless, and it was a good deal when we introduced it, and it was a good product. And so we did long copy ads about how New Yorkers will go out of their way to save some money. So some of it is like, why do we take a car to the airport to rent a car, or take public transportation to rent a car because it's cheaper to rent it at the airport than the city. But because we knew it was in the subway, we could do a long copy ad because we were like, that's what people are doing. They're sitting there just bored out of their mind. And if we can give them some witty copy to read, one, will make their commute more fun. They'll learn something and they'll probably remember Singular, and that happened. But really understanding what's the behavior of the space that I'm walking by will add to the creativity of what you're going to do.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the interesting thing, I think, now with technology and how out of home is changing, and in my opinion, constantly evolving. I've been here 5 years, and so much has happened since I got here. But it is, and Ashwini and Jeff talked about it a little bit, I think also in the beginning, how it does tie into other channels, how you can build like a much more holistic campaign without out of home, and how, people may run away from the television ad, but they're on their way somewhere, to a store or something when they leave their house. You can, if they see it, you can create a longer story, you can create a message. You could we for a while dabbled with this sort of tagline of wrap the consumer in your brand, but you can really use the medium that way. Is that, as you're working on broader campaign pitches and things, like, again, knowing that out of home often is very siloed. Are you thinking about it that way? Are you adding it like?
Well, I think things like this are good reminders. I was just in an event last week with Ad Week, and Julie, I think you were there, but it was weird. There were two different sessions where a media buyer said, one of my favorite places to put creative is in outdoor. And she said, two different panels, that outdoor is one of those surprise places that you forget about, and it's so powerful. And I do think in this fast-paced world where we're just inundated with things, that a great piece of creative and outdoor has a really good chance of being the lead of an idea that then breaks out into different channels. And the other thing I always think that, I was thinking about British Airways, and 4 or 5 years ago, I might get the timings wrong, but they had this little boy that the outdoor was him looking up in the sky and pointing to British Airways planes. That was fascinating at the time, and it was using data and technology. But then this year, they just did a very simple thing with people looking out of a plane window. So I think we have to be careful to not just go down the rabbit hole of, we got to do something cool that makes outdoor do fancy things. It's like, does it need to? Some of the beauty of outdoor to me is just the elegance and simplicity of believing that your message doesn't need to be obnoxious. It can be actually beautiful. And outdoor to me is one of the closest times we get to art. I'm saying I was just in a meeting this week where I was looking at creative from this agency, Mullen Lowe. And so it was like people around the world presenting work over and over and over again. The two things I remember today, both outdoor. I don't remember the films. I don't remember the radio. I don't remember the social. I remember two amazing pieces of outdoor. That then we started saying, oh, if you did that in outdoor, imagine what you could do here, and take that idea and put it here. And then one of them had to do with paper. And it was intrinsically, the idea was tied to the product itself. But then we had just seen this amazing designer that was making all these clothes out of paper. And we were like, wait, that outdoor, what if we did this? And so the outdoor was the instigator of a much bigger way of celebrating the brand in other mediums. So
It's very cool. I mean, and in many ways, sort of coming back to sort of thinking about the cross media, the omni-channel piece that we play. Maybe it's, and we've talked about this before, maybe it's a good place to start with outdoor, because then you grab people's attention. They think about the brand, and then you can transport that into other channels.
Well, when I first got into this business, most of my creative directors would say, show me what it looks like in print/outdoor, because they believed that if you could get your idea reduced down to something that demands simplicity, it's probably a stronger idea. So a good way to test where you're going creatively is, does it work on a billboard? And then if it works on a billboard, you probably have a pretty strong idea. I mean, we forget that people are inundated with messages every day. I mean, what, I don't know, it's like 30,000 messages a day that we receive. Simplicity is really important. You know, what am I going to remember and recall? And the more it's distilled down, I mean, just as a practice, I think we should bring back the discipline of simplifying enough to work and stand out in a medium like outdoor.
I mean, for sure, but very hard to do. So with that, not impossible, but hard. You really have to think about it, and you need to work with people who know what they're doing, right? So in our call, you gave a few really good examples of campaigns that you love. What's the work that you're most kind of jealous of that you've seen, and what's the work that you've done in out of home that you're the most proud of?
Well, this is kind of cheating because it wasn't really outdoor, but it was one of my favorite moments. The M&M store in Las Vegas, this would have been a long, long time ago, probably 1996, 97, was losing money. And I had a CMO at Mars, Paul Michaels, who was really a partner. And he goes, will you and your partner, Steve Rudder, go out and see, well, why are we losing so much money on the M&M store? And this was before we had just launched the redesign of the characters, so they hadn't really made a massive appearance yet. And so we went, and the M&M store in Vegas is sort of off the beaten path. It's not far away, but you just don't walk, it doesn't have a lot of foot traffic. And we noticed that people were going in and buying things, and then they were leaving with these plastic bags that just look like what you get at the deli or whatever. And there were these gold bags with a big chocolate M&M on them that were in the store, but nobody was leaving with them. And we're like, well, what's going on? Why aren't those beautiful bags going out with the candy and stuff? And they're like, oh, it's $3 a piece. And so people are spending way too much money. And by the time they get the sticker shock of the candy, they're like, oh, screw it, put it in the little plastic bag. We're like, okay, we went back and we said, we think we have a solve, which is just give those damn bags away. And they're like, but they're really expensive. I was like, yeah, but they're very cheap billboards. And so basically overnight, the minute we started having people walk around with those golden bags, the store became profitable. And it just shows that people are walking around with the smallest outdoor billboards all over Vegas, and you see it happening in Manhattan, at the airports. I watch it all the time. That big golden bag. People are like, where is it? Was it good? Whatever. But again, a weird outdoor experience, but just the power of being where people are walking and interested. It's pretty amazing.
And look, it is out of home. I mean, that's the thing. It's so many different. Oh, 1 minute. Whew. All right. So I'm going to ask you. You're here. You have agencies and media owners in the room. You've been in the industry a long time. We are really trying to build this medium to something big. We believe in it. I think it's hotter than it's ever been. What's your advice to us as an industry, even though we sit in different places? How should we advertise ourselves to make people realize how great we are?
You mean well, that will cost you a lot of money.
The out-of-home industry.
That's what I do for a
If you
living.
could do an industry campaign, if you could do a creative campaign for our medium, what would it be?
Yeah, so I gotta say, you have to pay me a lot of money to do that. But I do.
I'm cheating now.
I do think that I think it's the rethinking. First of all, the work speaks for itself. I mean, anytime I go to a festival, one of my favorite places to go is to the outdoor section of so I also think that rethinking the medium, years ago, I had an idea for Kellogg's that they didn't do because they were thinking too small. And I wanted it to be iconic for this brand. And they came back and they're like, good news, we got a billboard site in Times Square for 4 months. And I was like, well, we're not going to do it. And they're like, well, how long did you want it? And I was like 30 years. And they're like, what? And I was like, no, think bigger. Think how important these beautiful places and outdoor that you don't become an ad, you become a destination. And I think that, understanding the power of outdoor and not just taking it for granted that it's just an aside to something bigger is, I think, where you've been steering this conversation is, could it start? Could it be the beginning of a very big idea?
So that was like Amazing, great tagline, thank you, I will pay you something for it later, I'm sorry, Susan was unprepared. Yeah, let it be the beginning, the start of something. Susan, I mean, thank you so much for
That
being
was
here.
fast.
That was, yeah, it was very fast, and I don't know if you'll stick around if people can ask you a few more questions, but regardless, thank you for coming here. Scruffy voice, busy week, but you know, you're a great champion for our medium, and it was fantastic to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Susan, that was excellent. I remember that British Airways billboard, little boy looking up to the plane, and I was like, oh my God. And since then, we have come such a long way that it's incredible. For our next session, would love to invite Christine from Meta. We wanted to carry the theme of, carry your out of home with you, if you will. The M&M, I'll just stand, whether I stand or I sit, I'm equally short or tall, doesn't matter. So you will still be able to see me. So for this session, the whole point of our next conversation was to pick up where Susan left and where Anna was taking the conversation about evolution of out of home, innovation within out of home, carry your out of home with you. And so we thought we would really invite Christine to come and talk about Meta and the smart glasses, and like you are literally carrying whatever it is in it with you. Yes, yes.
Look under your seats, everyone.
I know.
Oh, awesome.
Next time, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to wear them while you're speaking, no, I'm joking. But to get the conversation started, and in all seriousness, how does Meta, which is, at the core of it, a digital mobile, digital first company, how do you define out of home? What does that mean to a company like Meta?
You know what? That seems like such a simple question. And I was like, how do we define it? A lot of times when I first started at Meta 5 years ago, we were new to what we call off-platform media channels. So on-platform, as you can guess, are the channels that we run, and off-platform is everything but our channels. And so obviously I joined a company with experts of social media, but didn't know what out of home can do, what video can do, what print can do, and audio. So we spent like the first 2 years of my role like making one-on-one decks of like, this is what out of home is, and this is what you can do with it. And so it's funny because I had to start at such just a basic level of like, it could be anything you see outside or in the cinema or when you travel, and with like pictures of all the different categories. So it's like, so
I did wonder because
so
the
restrictive. on
yeah,
that.
the average age of a Meta employee, at least whatever 5 years ago, was pretty young. So to explain to
Yeah.
them what out of home, they're like, "What are you talking about? I have my phone."
Yeah, right. So a digital first company, and then you're coming in, you're like, you need out of home to walk by, and you have to be careful what you say, because I was new to tech. I've now been there for 5 years, but I came from places where I was like, you don't walk past out of home ads, right? And they're like, what do you mean? Facebook is the best media you could ever buy or own. We're so powerful. And I'm like, but you need the combination of on and off platform. So that's how I had to really like pivot a lot of our conversations and drive like, if you use the power of on platform with a powerful medias, like outdoor, there's just so much you can do. And so I know, Jeff, we've talked about this a lot. I love to show pictures of all the celebrities that take selfies in front of themselves on their boards. Like if you just go through our Instagram feed, or you following your celebrities, they always post a picture of themselves when they're on a board. And it's like their way of saying like they made it, or they're so proud of themselves. And then there's also so many trends called like the perfect Instagrammable ad, right? There's so many areas where people like line up to take a picture, if it's a mural or an iconic billboard. And so like, that's something we should play at. Like us, Instagram should actually have the most Instagrammable ads out there. So it's like really just talking about that in that way and how we pair them together. And yeah, so that's how we've been defining it. I've really been very prescriptive. I like wrote like a 101 deck.
That's incredible.
I should put it into a new Meta
Yeah,
AI, a catchier way of defining it. I'll come back to you.
Yeah. So Jeff, thank you for joining the panel as a industry expert, if you will, while you're running the session with me, but still, I think, just given the wide variety of experiences you've had, agency side, tech side, trade org side, and since both of you are on the council at the OAAA, I'm just curious, first to you and I guess then to you, Christine, about what are some of the trends you're seeing from the council, when they talk about out of home? Because so prior to the 4A's, I used to be at Dentsu, I started and ran Amnet. We worked a lot with Postoscope. And I would keep wondering, why can't I just measure the impression? Like, what is the special measurement for out of home? I don't get it. I think lot of progress has been made to kind of help merge it, because I think once you're able to measure together, I'm convinced that it'll just become part of the bigger integrated buy across the board. What are some of the trends that you, both of you, but you are seeing now and in the past, based on what you've
I
done?
definitely know that when we were talking, is there okay? All right. Let's just make this awkward. Hi.
You're a podcaster.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this during our brand council meetings and gatherings. It's, really, it starts with some of the most basic and I think fundamental areas where, I think it has evolved from context to content, right? You can sort of Instagrammable moments, how you can combine other channels with out of home to then amplify and go beyond, right? I kind of go back to that very basic, mentality of going beyond with everything that you do. What we, dream big. Something that Susan talked about is just make that commitment, make that perm commitment long-term, right? Make that 30 years, think ahead, think several steps forward. And I think that's always going to be at the nexus of then developing how those ideas then can go into different areas. And whether it is taking folks to a particular, product site, or whether it's really focusing in on just that pure engagement, essentially gravitating towards the equity. And so I think that that's always going to be there. And so if you're going to be, if you're answering that RFP from, Nike, it's like, all right, well, what is the big idea? How are you going to go out there and find that opportunity? And, Susan also said, Friends/Home started brief. I remember when we were in the quad at Wyden that we're sitting there and we're talking about, all right, what's the next big idea for Nike? It's about the moment, right? We're going into that moment of the World Cup. And so how do we go in and actually become more than what, Adidas as a sponsor would already have a footprint, how do we go beyond? And so when that brief comes to you, it's something special and it can bring, I think, a lot of magic to the table. So you probably brief in that way too. It's like, well, you have the fundamentals, yes, but how do we go beyond?
Yes. I actually wanted to add a question to whatever he asked you. So, other than the glasses, just talking about the family of apps that Meta has, I love your idea about Instagrammable moments. Like, I am online, but now I'm going to take a picture of me on that billboard.
Yes.
How would Meta measure that?
Ooh, great question. We
And,
love.
and the family of apps, obviously.
Yeah.
How would you measure that?
How do we measure that? The magical question. So we do measure it in a lot of different ways. So in respect to we do a lot of things where we want to build a moment and we want to build a stunt. We do some really cool, iconic out of home. And this fast follow is we also have to have a whole content team to take all the content capture and we're going to make a fun reel. We're going to make some posts and then we're going to make sure we have a really fast follow on our channels. If it's Quest, Instagram, Ray-Ban, whatever it is, we need to follow up really fast. So it's funny, sometimes we just say, we need the stunt for the content, and it's all for the gram, but you need it together, and it's a great way to also justify the costs, the hard non-working fees of those costs, because you extend your reach with our channels. And so that's one way that we really go there. So when we bring it to our channels, then we can measure the social, the social shares or the social interactions with that. And then we do measure it with a good old fashioned like third-party brand study. Like there's nothing wrong just to see how it performed with like an, opportunity to see type moment. We are working on ways, I'm always trying to find ways to connect the measurement a little bit deeper because all my MetaMates are used to seeing like like a beautiful dashboard of how everything works and how to tweak one color on Instagram to drive X usage. And they're like, how do I do that without a home? I'm like, you can't. But you have to trust it too. Like we're buying out of home for a different reason. If I was buying out of home to drive app usage, to change a behavior in the app, that we're not going to get that direct correlation. But what I can do is cast a big net and drive people to where you want to drive, or change a mindset or make a memory to get you down the line to the mindset. So it's a journey. That's the lofty answer. We have a clean room and we're trying to figure a way how to drive, like if we can do a lat long geo in the clean room, can we connect the dots somehow? So we're trying. It's tough to measure, but I think it's more what I have pivoted to make my life a little easier is I do data-informed planning. So if you know that we're really doing the best data-informed planning on the front end, we know that we're in the right places at the right time in the right areas to drive that brand messaging content.
I mean, I can see several buyers in this room. I think that's fantastic advice. I know you and I did not talk about this, but as you were talking, I have to ask you this question. Since there are so many buyers and sellers in this room, and given the size and breadth of Meta between WhatsApp, I mean, obviously Instagram is probably the most out-of-homeable medium or app, if you will. What are some practices that you have seen work? And we can use Instagram as a leader, but you have so much. You have,
Yeah, we have a whole portfolio.
I don't like the Oculus thing, but you have that.
we
You have
do.
the classes, you have.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Instagram was out of home. WhatsApp does a lot of out of home. Our Quest headsets products, our Ray-Ban Metas, I have them here in my thing. We love out of home here with the Ray-Ban Metas. At the end, I'll have to take a selfie of the crowd and I'll post it. We each use it in different ways. So even though I sit across a portfolio and we drive like go-to-market strategies and investments, each BU, each family, each app kind of uses it in a unique way per that campaign. So for WhatsApp, it was really important to drive our privacy message against other top messaging apps in the US. So we had a very competitive, what's Apple doing and how do we compete with Apple and how do we share? And we did spark a little bit of an out-of-home grab with them. We would target where their boards were and then they would follow up with ours. So that was fun. Sorry if there's anyone from Apple. Let's exchange notes. So that was really fun. Instagram, we did a new strategy there where we wanted to be where the young and cool people are. So even though we love Times Square and those iconic moments, there's a big moment for wild postings or transit or being around movie theaters, or I joked we need to be near outside every Starbucks when school gets out because that's where all the kids are. Where do young adults and teens hang out, and where can we show up in places that were not so obvious and just be a part of their culture? So that was a new tactic. And then Ray-Bans, we have sales data of where our top retail locations are. So we take that sales data, we work with our clean room in New Star, and we match the top zip codes. So I basically get a zip code list of all the top stores, and then I figure out where those zones are and what markets are the top markets, in those top markets, where are the top performing stores, and then kind of give a little heat map or to our agency partners, Spark, PMX, who've been really great with us. And so we work with them on making sure we really cull through. So they go through here's an RFP of all the best units that we like, and then we match it against the high indexing zip codes based on sales. And we also, that's my data-driven end. So that's how we do that too. So we'll do indexes. So I'll take the WhatsApp or the Ray-Ban. So well, not Ray-Bans, they'll take WhatsApp. The target this year was WhatsApp users in the US, and I was like, that's 80% of the population, that's our problem. So we really had to like drive down. So what we did was build that third-party audience in Newstar and then ranked the highest indexes. So then we got a market list, and then we got like a zip code list, and then we came like little patches where we could be most effective. So all different strategies for what that campaign needs.
The big idea of, all right, you've got, great creative executions depending on the product. And, we talk about the content from that. But what about the context? Because I'm stepping out the subway train, yesterday.
You saw Batman?
MetaQuest,
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the MetaQuest live boards, and I was like, all right.
No, those
They
look
trying to
good.
get me, or as I'm walking off, or am I the right target? But how does that kind of wrap
Yes.
into, the level up, the big idea?
Yeah, I'm glad you saw that. That was a fun one. Our new Batman, I don't know the name of it, I'm forgetting, but it's a new Batman, really cool game in our Quest headset. And we did a whole play on Gotham, urban cities, and it's like a really cool, visually stunning of like wearing the Quest back to back with Batman. And we targeted LA and New York, Gotham cities, and we wanted to be first around areas where you could also see the skyline to really play with like the Gotham Batman aesthetic. And then we realized, you also have to catch the people on the go. So that was just what you saw was part of our good old fashioned reach frequency play. We got to target people throughout the city and connect the dots to where we zeroed in, where we knew our indexes were high, but also had cool visuals of the city skyline. Thanks. And we did have a cool idea that didn't happen. I was bummed. We were gonna do something crazy with shadow, like having like shadow figures over like a building, maybe even an abandoned building to almost look like Batman and like create a stunt out of that and do some social content. I don't know why that didn't happen. And we were gonna do another one where LA has like a lot of abandoned buildings or like high rises, and we wanted to do like a huge banner and like drop it down with like the bat signal and be like coming soon and try to play with the bat signal. And like, I don't know, zoning or something wasn't allowed, but I did call probably some of you in the room. I'm like, do you have like an abandoned building we can help buy? Or like, or like off the 405, I was like, hey, can we like drop a banner off your billboard? Like, we're trying to come up with so many new ways. Everyone was here to play. We ultimately cut it because I think it was like a permit something.
Yeah.
I know we have maybe 5 minutes.
No, you have 10.
Okay, 10 minutes. So this is awesome.
Okay.
Christina's, she's open to questions from the audience. So I'm going to ask mine, and then you're welcome to chime in. Some of the things that your clients are asking for that either is still in development, or it's an innovation, or that we can look forward to, or you're going to unveil next CES or what have you. Like now that Meta has so many different distribution mechanisms, outside the US, WhatsApp is awesomely huge.
Everyone loves it everywhere else but here.
I live off it, yes. So what are some big themes that everyone here would probably benefit from knowing of what's coming next, if you will?
Like new products
New
and
products, how is the Llama AI, is that going to be incorporated into any kind of targeting or what have you, or?
oh man, I wish I was that close to Mark Zuckerberg to reveal what's in the future state, but I could.
Not the company,
Yeah.
out of home.
Oh, out of home where we're gonna show up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was like, let me check my legal team. Go watch, we just had Connect, so you can actually see literally all our new products that are coming out. Where we are in the roadmap, that's funny, because I don't know what's on the roadmap for 2025 yet, because we're in the middle of planning.
Yeah.
And so we're at that stage where we're figuring out, fighting for the budgets, fighting for priority. But I will say, WhatsApp is always a top priority. Instagram's a top priority. Obviously, you saw us enter the marketplace this year with our AI, so Llama and our AI features. Ray-Ban Metas will be back, and a Quest. So whatever comes out of our Reality Lab product house. So there's always a Quest, there's always a next version of these. So you'll definitely see us present in Q4 with the next cool product. And we usually have an extension campaign. So where we are in out of home with that, I don't know. That's a good question. But our top favorites are, you always see us in the marketplace with Instagram, WhatsApp, trying to do something cool with AI, and we always show up with one of our Reality Labs products, like with the Batman experience we just said. Last year in Q4, we did 2 big activations with the Quest headset, one in the Vegas Sphere. We did 2 residencies, and then we did a Times Square takeover with a 3D animation, which was so much fun. Like, it was a cold day in November, and I didn't want to leave Times Square because it was so fun to watch and see. So stuff like that. But I wish I knew. We don't plan that far ahead. I wish. My job easier.
Yeah, no. Jeff, based on everything that she said, do you think there are products or ideas that the OAAA members may find helpful? I know a lot of it. I can see agencies taking notes, so I know hopefully we'll be able to connect with
I
Meta
think a big
separately.
part of, these events and discussions, revolve around collaboration. So you really lean on your PMX team, certainly. And
Billy's
so-
here somewhere. Hi, we love all
Yeah,
PMS.
Billy and the crew, and so certainly they are working with a lot of our OAAA members, and certainly to find those right moments and ideas to help answer the brief. But where's that bridge when you're looking for, or are you receptive to that level of perhaps like a day of ideas to help you plan? Or whether they are hitting a certain type of audience, a certain product, is it really just an overarching brand play? Like, are you guys open to doing more of those type of like out of home days to get those ideas?
Yes, love a good innovation day. Our hardest thing unique to Meta is it's just hard to get the people you need in the room to like focus on that. Meaning depends on who you want. If it's just the media team, you'll get more attendance and a lot more people. If you need to get media plus creative plus our marketing BUs, it gets complicated because we're so big. So what I've done is break it up by business units. You can't do like a mega Meta media day because it's just a scheduling problem. Or each BU, each marketing brand kind of has their specific product or app in their mind. So it's hard to kind of go overarching, but we do like one on like, maybe we'll do the family apps like Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp together, Reality Labs together. So we'll like break it apart. We've definitely done that. We've done that with our agency teams, and I've definitely done it with our, marketplace partners a lot. I think that's why I love out of home so much, because the community is so great, and I can call all my friends at whatever company and be like, I have an idea, or I want to do this, or help me connect the dots here. So always open to that in a more organized or on the go ad hoc way.
That's awesome. I know we're almost at time. One more question, time for one. So I wanted to open it up if anyone had a question for her now.
Hi there, Jeremy Flynn, Clear Channel Outdoor. Getting back to your overview on measurement and leveraging clean rooms. For the media channels that participate in that way with you, how much of your investment is allocated to like the media channels that actually can leverage those technologies? We've been doing a lot of work with like enabling clean rooms and out of home. I'm just curious how investment decisions are made based on that interoperability. And then second question is what, you talked about having the right folks in the room. From my understanding, a lot of it is about getting permissions and consent to actually look at like app engagement data in order to do that measurement. So for those of us who are just kind of dealing with the out-of-home buyers, like who are the folks that you need to have in the room to actually get that level of mobile permissions to do the measurement?
Good question. First, how our measurement so far has drove investments. So the clean room is like a pet project of mine that I really want to get as much connections as possible. I think what we're having is we're doing a tech stack evaluation, to be honest, to understand what's the right partners to get the most integrations with the partners and channels that we're buying. So I would call that a pet project, and let's talk in a year and let's see where that goes. But I really want to like connect the dots there. That's why I mentioned earlier, I do a lot more in the front end of data-informed targeting, where I can say, with the zip code targeting, the market rankers, working with Spark PMX to make sure, like, here's our top zip code, and then they match the units that are in those zip codes, and then I'm like, have a pretty little, like, chart of like, here's the top indexing units, and this is why they're so great, and a pretty picture, and it goes very well. And then sometimes I just throw a heat map in there, you don't even need it, but visually it looks good. So I feel like I get the buy-in in the front, and so it actually does help the investment on the front end. On the back end, we're doing a lot of media mix modeling. We have so many internally, but what we've seen is out-of-home performs really well in our media mix modeling, so you're doing great. How to get connected to our data, that's never gonna happen, I'm sorry, but
Worth a shot,
the clean room's the way, right? If we could connect the pipes, I would love a way to show that this out-of-home ad, if someone saw it and then went on their Instagram or did something that we said, I feel like the future's there and there's someone that's gonna make the connection happen. So I would love to see that. And that's why we're doing a tech stack evaluation to find the right partners who have not only US, but global connection with all these top partners. And I think digital out of home is like right there, ready to go. Like that we can quickly connect the dots with as simple. I know, I don't know technically how to do it, but if you can integrate into like our clean room and your way, there's definitely a way to do that. So that's on a future state.
For the next session. We are out of time. Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having me.
I wanted to invite Jamie Robinson, Kelly Peppers, and Mike McGraw here. Jeff is going to run this session. And the topic, which has been, the theme for the whole event, honestly, is what is the power of, how does human creativity really drive out of home, I guess?
Let you know what we're trying to find.
A little higher.
I'm
All right. At least I got that working. Great. Awkward. Here. Make it more cozy. All right, well, hello. Thank you. Thank you for coming, guys. Well, just to frame it up a little bit more on our panel discussion here, on really the power of human creativity. I know we're gonna have some questions about the opposite of power of human creativity, which, comes in the, form of a different kind of entity.
Did you just do the
I
robot?
just did it. Thank you for picking up that subtle, bad impression of a robot. But this is, I think, the essence of whether it's advertising or marketing, is how you really tap into that level of human creativity. How you really go out there and go beyond, to think beyond, to create those type of never been done before type of ideas, which we constantly get asked by many, well, if you're on the brand and agency side, you're always looking at, well, what is that never been done before idea? So whether it's a big brand idea or a product push approach. So I wanted to start with you, Jamie. When we talk about media and creative and media coming together, and how you find that balance.
Oh, they have to be married. It's really interesting. I came to this belief when I was just a creative director and coming up, and I would be like, oh, I have this idea, and it's this crazy thing, and we'll do like we'll use social, and we'll do digital, and then we'll actually go into TV, and then it'll come around, and they'll be out of home, and then the client will be like, that's really cool, but we bought 15s, and that's all we had. It was just, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll just put that away. And the thing is, anything creative can be done in any medium at all. If you say that I can't do something creative because it's a 6-second spot, or it's an out-of-home board, or a print, or something, or audio, then you're not really being very creative at all, are you? The idea is to try to like look at the medium and then think, how can I break through in that medium? How can I hack that medium How can I do something that no one before has ever done in that medium? How can I use that medium for what it's good at and actually take it to make my big idea fucking huge? And I think only small creatives think that they're small media, and only small creatives think that the media needs to come after the idea. I think it can come both ways. I've certainly had great ideas that have sprung off of a fantastic media plan, and I've seen great ideas that, there was a great idea and it was so infectious that the media plan changed. But if they're not working hand in hand, you're really missing out, like how to bring an idea to life, like in the most fundamental way.
Wow, okay. Well, you dropped the F-bomb, so I'm going to continue with that shortly. So I love the passion,
doubt.
as always, Jamie, as always, love your passion. So let's bridge that, from that balancing to bringing that to life. And this next question for you, Kelly. The lively art that you bring to your inventory, to the beautiful walls that are out there for brands that really showcase that power of creativity, what they stand for. Like, how do you really kind of go through that design process with your, whether it's your internal teams or even with clients, whether it's brands or agencies, like really building that like level up?
Okay, so I see a lot of familiar faces, but a lot that aren't. So I'm the president of Colossal Media, and everything we do is painted. And we're not huge. There's 85 people that work at Colossal and 85 walls on average. So creativity is really important. We need to make it worthwhile for our clients. So your question was, how do we work with the design process? I can't directly answer that question. Don't be disappointed. I will answer the question, but a little differently, okay? So we don't do that much designing. I wish we did. I created an in-house advertising agency called Colossal Studios, maybe like, I don't know, like 7 years ago, because frankly, we wanted to make more money, right? And so we're like, we're gonna design ads for all of our clients. Since I launched that, we've designed ads for maybe 5 of our clients. And so it's not hugely successful because the most of the time our clients come to us with the same piece of creative that they're running in print or digital or vinyls. And that's cool because I think that's really high impact to see it in all those different touch points. But our creativity really comes into play from the second we get the RFP. Everyone at Colossal, we really try to hire people that have a creative background in some fashion so that we service our clients with creativity from the RFP process all the way down to the POP photos, our museum quality photos that they can use in all of their digital channels. So there's a lot of creativity from start to finish. Even though we're not designing the artwork, it really is the core of our staff and our business, and it's just always buzzing with that creativity.
I mean, a lot of your walls are magnificent. They're absolutely beautiful, whether it's on the street or even, when you look up. And I have to ask this question because I was bridging the robot theme to, do you envision replacing human artists with robotic strokes or arms? Maybe not.
Yeah, no. As long as I'm employed there, which is hopefully for my entire career, that's a no. And I mean, our tagline's always hand paint. Hand paint involves hands.
Cyborg.
No. Listen, I'm always game for growing the business, but it's not gonna be in that. It just really, much of what we're doing is a performance art. Much of what we're doing is humanizing a brand. And to bring a brand to life, you really need a human doing that, evoking emotion. And I just don't think a robot can really replace that.
You say that now, Kelly, but yeah, I guess.
We'll see.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to transition over to Mike McGraw here.
Hey.
Hey, so I've got a few of these good questions here. I might go a little bit,
All right, throw me the curveball.
fair. All right, I'm gonna keep it simple for now, and then we'll get it, to the next level. So, what is one aspect of the out-of-home industry that you would like to see better leveraged from a creative perspective?
So focusing on digital, which our company has a lot of, and we're one of the bigger digital out-of-home companies in the US. I'd love to see more people taking full advantage of the sort of built-in superpowers that digital comes with. When we're doing stuff, and my career started in Times Square, I've been doing that for 25 years, and I've been involved in some really big outside the box, crazy things there. I'd love to see more people taking advantage of traditional digital formats, right? Whether that's transit, whether that's roadside, and really getting the most value out of what they can, with the tools that are built in. So doing more frequent creative change outs. There's nothing that's more sort of a bummer than seeing a really awesome concept launched at scale, but it's the same static ad for a 4-week flight and it never changes. Like, change it out, think about what's going on contextually in the environment, localize it, pull in data feeds. There's so many tools that we can leverage to help that creative be more relevant and more engaging to the audience and to make it unique to them every time they see it, right? Instead of the same ad just flipping on the board over and over again. And it comes at such a low, almost nothing production cost. To me, it just seems like an untapped opportunity that I'd love to work with more clients on maximizing. So that's where my mind always goes, like our roadside digital, there's so much potential there. And we've seen some great things recently with giant roadblocks at scale and doing really cool things by just more of it. I feel like we've just sort of scratched the surface, and yet digital's been deployed for almost 25 years in our industry. So start with a big idea, but then how can you get the most out of the tools that we have available?
That's spectacular. What I did there, people?
Yeah, I know what you
Not
did.
really. Did that for you, Dan Levy. Where are you, Dan? All right, okay, so contextual, you say contextual, Mike.
Yes.
So I'm going to go off the contextual side of it and ask Jamie. I mean, you are chief judge for the 2024 OAAA Awards earlier this year, and so not only thank you for that, but how do you see some of the work that you judged with the jury panel and that really stood out for you?
Well, let's go with contextual, right? I mean, out of home is one of the very few mediums that you know exactly where someone is going to be looking at it and observing it when they are. You have complete control over that. And so it's another creative, fun thing to play with, which is how do I use the place where it is to contribute to the idea. Some of the stuff that we saw that did contextually interesting things was, I'll tell you, there's one that springs to mind for Leo, where they crossed the Sunset Boulevard with this giant tongue, and they had done a lot of really fun contextual things. Or The Haunting in Venice, where they had taken over in Venice Beach to talk about the haunting in Venice. But then there was like kind of ones that were much more lo-fi and weird. So Pizza Inn, I don't know if you guys love Pizza Inn. I've never been to Pizza Inn, but they bought this billboard space in the middle of a forest, like alongside of a highway, to announce their Bambi and Friends pizza, which is exactly what you think it is. It's venison and like elk and boar. It's really, really grim, really grim. But they bought this kind of wooded area, basic billboard. And what they did was they put little decoys of little woodland creatures out, basically looking up in horror at this Bambi and Friends pizza board. And I loved it because that wouldn't have played in the city. You couldn't have done that in the city, but they made that context of being in the woods there. The other thing that they did, which was so brilliant, and it was it's like a very inexpensive buy. But it's cool, was that they made the decoys, the little figurines, they knew people were gonna steal them. So they actually turned them into coupons. So that if you stole the little Bambi or the little boar, the little thumper rabbit, then you could get a free pizza. So I just love the creativity there, but just showing how contextual can be two different, can be completely different. And let me just add one more example while I'm yammering on. This is another one. You brought up Times Square. Google and Taito did a really amazing big ass, like immersive thing that mixed AR, augmented reality, with digital leaderboards to make the Space Invaders game. And I thought that use of New York City was so interesting. All different pockets of New York City they used in a really fascinating way, all contextual.
That interactivity, it adds to it, whether it's, Bambi to, to Space Invaders, right? Still connected with robots, all right? Yes, it might sound like I'm obsessed with robots, so I'm gonna have to ask you, Kelly, how have the robots infiltrated the out-of-home industry? Or Better yet.
No idea, making a little coffee.
No, well, I think about AI. Let's just, go right to it. So it's AI. Like, when we think about human creativity, like that's how humans are going to, that's how those ideas, those Obie Award winning ideas, come to life. But, how do you see AI affecting, the out-of-home industry?
Honestly, I don't have enough knowledge of it to speak with, say anything smart. But I'll tell
You're
you.
doing great. You're doing.
Thank you. So this topic is not my strong suit, but I'll tell you this. Okay, so we're always going to be painting our walls. I'm not going to have a robot at a location. But will I implement AI behind the scenes to make our business stronger? Yes. And so for the client, it seems like we paint these walls quickly, efficiently, and there's no problems, right? We spare the client from all the behind the scenes. But think of it this way. Could you imagine going outside with your kid and doing an art project with your kid for 5 to 10 days, and then it starts to rain, or it's really hot, or the kid gets sick, right? So what we do out in the streets and all of the elements is so crazy that I want to make the behind the scenes easier. And that's where we can implement some AI in scheduling and resource management and inventory management. So I'll look into that. So for us specifically, it's really the behind the scenes, not what's happening in the street.
I wasn't trying to, go into like.
I could take all your jokes. Yes.
Because what you do is so breathtaking, Kelly, like the work you do is like just next level. It's so beautiful. And I think this is going to be a kind of thing with all creativity in going forward. The more we use AI, the more middle everything is going to get. And then you're going to see these bursts of exceptional human creativity. And those are going to be the things that pay attention. So I really admire your answer. And I just want to say I'm a fangirl of what you do. I think it's rad.
Thank you.
Welcome.
No robots.
Yes, see? I was a part of that. That's great. Mike, you want to be the robot guy here? Like, what are your thoughts on AI and out-of-home?
Is working?
Yeah.
So I have 35 designers that work for me, and I'll remember the day vividly when Adobe just popped Firefly into all the creative suite that they use. So Photoshop, Illustrator, and Design suddenly had these sparkling new AI tools that allowed them to do things that they used to do manually previously by typing a prompt, and everybody freaked out and thought, where's my job going? And a robot is gonna take over. And I just remember telling them, guys, it's a tool, right? It's a data set that's been trained to give responses to a prompt, right? You still need a human to put in the prompt. You still have to have the ideas in your head that are creative thought starters, and then that tool just allows you to come up with new executions. So we love it, and it's great for the things that don't require, kind of like what you were saying, Kelly, that don't require creativity. When we get an ad in a format and we need to change it into 19 other formats really quickly, and we just need everything to just be different rectangles for out of home, that's an example of where AI can be really powerful. But on the ideation side, if somebody's just got a brain block and they can't think of 15 new different ways to come up with a way to visualize something that they're working on for a campaign, it's a great way for a creative person to just have another thing to reference, right? And to kind of inspire them. But the human element, I tell them, always has to be there. The idea has to come from people and authentic experiences that we can all relate to.
Well, I noticed you called it a thing. Like, I personally have named my ChatGPT Chadwick Von Gogh.
Okay.
And so that gives the extra personality behind it. Neither here nor there.
I always thank Claude for what it's worth. I'm like, thank you, Claude.
Exactly.
They're like, it's like-
Got it. Not just Chadwick. There's Claude now. So, okay, how much time do we have? We got a few more minutes?
About 10 minutes.
All right, cool. So I wanted to actually open up a Q&A if you guys are cool with that, with folks. Oh, look at
Sure.
that. We've got a question right here. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Yue Liu. We're a robotic startup. I heard you mention robots 10 times.
Right.
So we're making a robotic end cap that has a big screen. So it carries both product and has a big screen. So yeah, just want to mention that and get your take on the future of robotics in outdoor.
You don't want my take on, because then it's just like literally.
What does the robot do?
Yeah, in the end cap, like.
In the end cap, does it move the products forward or is it?
So on one side is a shelf that carries physical product. It's slightly taller than me. So on one side is a shelf can carry samples, or for example, carry a Legoman. And on the other side is a big screen.
Yeah, I mean, everything is a media opportunity that you can play with. I think it's exciting. To me, bring on more formats, I mean, I'll just speak for myself, bring on more formats, bring on more playgrounds. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm already thinking about stuff you would do that kind of to make the front and the back interact somehow.
If it's a way to reach somebody in a unique opportunity through their daily journey that we couldn't previously, great, right?
Especially because you'll know they're at the point of purchase. So how do you play with that and make it fun to call someone over to the point of purchase?
I'm not a robot hater, I swear.
Oh, putting on your.
Sounds really cool.
Well, it's ironic because we're talking about power of human creativity, and then it changed into a robotic storytelling here session. But Deacon, give us.
Hi, Deacon Bell from Media Boss Group. Question around, again, AI and a little technology. I recently saw some amazing tech where they're looking at now, and out of home, I always said it was, a nice prompter to mobile search. Now it's actually visual search, being able to take your phone, being able to look at whatever that visual medium is. Maybe it's the beautiful colossal artwork that's there, and everything in that phone, in that image, is now shoppable. The AI can pull every single piece from what's in your phone in that. And thinking about that creatively is something we really have to almost take pause for, to say everything in that capture can be shoppable in seconds. How are you guys implementing that maybe into your creative guidance to clients? And it's something obviously very, very new still, but it's something that I think is going to really unlock that capabilities of path to purchase and that shoppability with literally a photo and a click, or a visual capture and right into my wallet and purchase behavior.
It's awesome. We love it. Just another way to get the person viewing the out of home who's interested in the brand or the product closer to a point of purchase or whatever the call to action is that they're trying to get them to do next. We haven't, our company that I know of, done anything where we've tested how the creative more effectively can get the person where they need to go, but I'm excited to dive into that when we have somebody that asks and learn more myself about the potential. I just think it's great.
Yeah, I'll agree. Like, I think the days of expecting mediums to just do one thing, just be awareness driving or just be lower funnel, close the deal, are over. I think that brand and purchase should be, we should try to help them exist within the same piece of media if we can. So I really love this thing. I also think, let's say that the next generation buys everything on their phone. I mean, we do too. Come on, like we're older, but we're still cool. But the young ones, and I think I saw the meme that went around recently, that they're laughing that people that are millennial and above have to go to their laptops to buy big purchases, where they're buying their big purchases on their phone. Scares the hell out of me. But what I mean to say is, there's going to be a time when we're going to expect everything in the world to be shoppable if you want it to be. And I think that, and that's probably a lot of the work that you guys are doing over to at Meta, probably. And I think that that's awesome. And if we can shorten the path to purchase and make it entertaining, so that the sales tool is actually a world beautifying or entertaining moment, hell yeah. Doesn't have to be boring to drive sales. It can be amazing, exciting, and close the deal. So keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
I love it. I'm gonna research it tonight on my desktop. I think that's a super cool idea. I like to say at Colossal, we get people to look up in an age of looking down, but if we can look up, look at the painted wall, then look down and buy something, we've done right for our clients. So that's a really cool idea.
Any other questions? Oh, we got another one.
Hi, Catherine from Broadpine here. I would love to get your opinion on creativity and how it impacts timeline. So Christine brought up a really good point, that Meta doesn't plan that far in advance for their out-of-home strategy. And it is a trend that we see, especially with digital out-of-home, is you can have a faster turnaround time. But as creatives, you know, it said that creativity takes time. So how do you balance doing something really creative for the client with a tight turnaround time, especially when viral ads are so popular?
That's a tough one. It was part of one of my questions that Jeff jumped around on, but I'm always trying to tell people that we should be thinking of the fact that digital allows you to iterate closer to the posting deadline shouldn't be something that lets everybody just go, oh, well, then we don't have to start it for like another 3 weeks because, you know, we can get it to them the last minute and have it scheduled. We should be trying to flip that and saying we have more time to ideate, more time to do better creative that's more impactful, because we don't have to get it to a printer, or we don't have to unfortunately spend the time to paint it, which can be time consuming because it's hand done and it's amazing. So for digital, for people buying media that way, I would say there's more responsibility to kind of keep yourselves on schedule and to give the creative teams the time they need to come up with really awesome ideas, and not sort of give into the temptation of saying, we can do it last minute because it's digital, just, you know, 24 hours beforehand, we're just gonna send it over. That might not be the answer you're looking for, but what I'm always focused on is trying to get people to sort of not think of that as being what allows them to spend less time on a digital campaign than they would on a painted wall or a printed campaign or a giant Times Square execution.
Well, this is what makes that question interesting, because it's coming from various perspectives. So to the point of digital out of home, it's, yeah, it must be quick, it must be easy, it's not necessarily. Can the paint dry faster, please?
I will paint your wall in 5 days.
Rush genius, please? So go ahead, Kelly.
I think, well, as far as like the back story, like if a client comes to us, which happens a lot, and says like, do you have a big idea? We try to suggest ideas that sometimes aren't even just paint, because we want to be a really good partner. We're like, you should get that digital screen and that painted wall. We really try to think about big picture for our clients' needs. But so sure, that takes as long as it does at Colossal as it would do at your home. But the paint process obviously takes a little bit longer, but you'd be surprised we can bang them out real quick.
And from my perspective, I mean, that lightning bolt striking can take 20 seconds into the project. You could, or by the first time you heard the brief, or it can take 20 years if you're, you know, if you're really slow going. I honestly, I don't want to miss, someone, I want to say it's Mark Twain, but maybe it's not, said there's nothing drives creativity like a deadline. I happen to be one of those creatives. I think my team might kill me for saying this, but I think everything is I think a lot of what we do, which is really interesting, is very much we crack puzzles, and I think because we're not just going off and saying, well, I could do an artist and I can be an artist and I can paint anything I want. We have very specific briefs, we have specific timelines, we have specific media, we have a specific message. So now our goal is to try to crack, and an audience, our goal is to try to crack that into a puzzle that will be amazing, exciting, and mind expanding for our audience. And so to me, I don't worry too much about tight deadlines. I think you just have to know if you're going to be consistently tight deadlines, people get burnt out. So I would think, like, if you can, my advice would be, if there's going to be something with consistently tight deadlines, stagger your team so they have a little downtime, because people can rush with their creativity, but they can't rush with their creativity consistently day after day for weeks after weeks, month after month.
That's all the time we have for this panel, so thank you very much. All right, well, next up, Ashwini is going to be back on the panel here, and I want to invite and introduce up Clive Hunter, Chief Revenue Officer at Outfront, John Schaff, Global Chief Investment Officer at Stagwell, and Michael Lieberman, Executive Director at Group N. Welcome. Michael, good to see you.
That previous session was fantastic in, you know, kind of insight into how you all think about creating the craft of advertising. And this is a fabulous follow-up because what I'm going to be asking this absolute heavyweight panel here is, given that there's so much opportunity and, possibilities with creating, how do you unlock more budget? That's the whole point. And I feel like Jonathan, Michael, and Clive would be perfect to answer this question. So, Clive, I'm going to get started with you first. Um, um, two questions. One is, given everything that you've seen in out of home over the years, and given the moment, the reason we are calling this session the medium of the moment is because of where we are with digital and AI and robotics and whatever else. What kind of education does your company offer to buyers, to partners who work with you, to kind of give them a sense of where things have been and where you could be going?
Yeah, hi everyone. Mostly around tequila, to be honest with you.
That too.
So listen, I think education brings up lots of things. And one thing you said, Ashwini, is about generating more budgets into out of home. I think the way that we as an industry try to think about things, it's not about budgets into out of home. It's actually about helping businesses be more successful. Because ultimately, any agency is thinking, with all due respect to John and Michael, it's about their own self-interest. And any brand owner is thinking about their own self-interest as well. So I don't think it's about budgets. I think it's about success and the way out of home is going to drive, the success that an agency is looking for or a brand's looking for. As far as education, listen, I think the modern world of sales is now called education. Sales in the US is seen as not a rude word, it's a very honorable word. But I think that the modern sales technique now is all about education because there's so much all of us want to and need to learn. It's interesting listening to the last panel talking about AI. None of us really know about where AI is going, but we're all desperate to learn about what's coming, how we use it, how it's going to make us better. We're using an AI optimization tool with Creative, which is pre and post. So we've got an LLM that we can feed a piece of existing creative into that then enhances it based on ongoing learning model. So do you know what I mean? So some of the education is about in situ, some of it's about the basics. In LA, we formed something called a Ride Academy, and getting a brand or an agency actually in a physical place to see the medium and see how it works, not for outfront, but the whole medium is key. Or taking a customer on the subway and getting them to really see. If you're Victoria's Secret at the moment, and I have to say their underwear is so uncomfortable, but if it really is, but if you're Victoria's Secret at the moment and you're going down on the subway and seeing what they just did, this week, and then they had their fashion show and linking it back, go on their Instagram page and see, they've got 80 million followers, and guess what's on their Instagram? A fucking billboard. So they get it. And for me, that's what education is all about. It's not some theoretical opportunity. It's absolutely living and breathing it, and getting brands and agencies to work with us. And that's what we try to do to ultimately achieve what a brand is trying to do, which is grow their business.
That's a great answer. I'm going to follow up with you, John. I absolutely loved Stagwell's installation at Cannes. It was fantastic. The way you opened it up to sports, to live events, etc. And it was all literally out of home across the board. And so I guess my question to you is, just given your role and your purview within Stagwell overall, what role does out of home play, and how does Stagwell present out of home as an integrated part of the integrated media mix overall?
As part of the integrated medium, and how we are involved with sports?
Yeah. What is the role of out of home?
Okay.
Where all do you see it playing a role within everything that Stagwell does?
Yeah, so I think out of home has been going through a renaissance over the last few years. And when we look at kind of the topic of how do we drive more investment into these channels, I think it's really around digitization and diversification. So, I mean, digitization of the channels, of the medias, of the boards. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that in terms of infrastructural investments, making sure you have the right boards. But as you start to digitize these environments, I think it provides a lot of benefit back to the advertisers. It gives you better measurement. It gives you better data. It gives you more kind of robust opportunity to optimize creative and actually roll in new creative on a day in, day out basis. I mean, that could be based on triggers. So like it actually allows, you don't need to run a 4-week stint or have the same 4-week vinyls up on a board. You can actually be a lot more nimble with the way that you're utilizing the creative space. And then diversification, the way that we look at out of home is it is an integral part of the overall media ecosystem and our communications with our clients, consumers. But stop selling me boards. Like, I want to understand how my out-of-home experiences influence an experience that my consumer is going through or trying to influence an experience that they're going to have. Make that board portable. It could be based off of portable content, off of a QR code on a board that extends the experience beyond just them seeing something. It is, I mean, we've actually got a company inside of Stagwell called Around. It is basically AR. We do a lot of in-stadium stuff. We've done stuff with the Rams. We've done stuff with the Twins. We use out-of-home to get people to engage and then actually further engage through an AR experience inside of these out-of-home environments. I'm not looking at out-of-home as the traditional kind of like poster board out-of-home. I'm looking at out-of-home more of an experience that a consumer is having outside of their home walls or their office walls. So being able to utilize this in a super strategic way, how does it marry up to the brief? How does it marry up to my consumers, their behaviors? And then how do I use these environments to extend those experiences far beyond just me seeing something pasted on a board? But let me take something out of that. Let me continue that conversation. And I think out of home can be a super powerful way to start that conversation and then help in continuing it throughout, like in an ongoing.
Michael, I would love for you to pick that up in two specific on two specific topics. One is for Group M and all the conversations we have had, like the extension of everything that John said into the digital ecosystem. How do you carry the message? What is the value of digital out of home overall? And then secondly, given all the privacy regulations coming down the by state, it's a question for both of you to some extent, and I'll come to Clive very soon. How do you think this is going to sort of affect what we do at a state level? And it's funny to think about digital out of home at a state level. Local out of home is absolutely at the county level, or whatever, city level. Digital out of home was supposed to be different, but now the privacy laws are sort of making them specific. So, how do you see out of home, digital out of home, privacy impacting it, etc.?
Yeah, I'll sort of build on both your points, right? The digitization.
I don't even know if it was a word, so I just.
The mechanism that gets us more digital. And the amount of education we have to put into this, like, I'm sorry, we've done a bad job at this for the last few years. We have not shifted out of home significantly to being an audience-driven, really responsive, scaled channel that it can be. And it's not just about having more digital screens versus something else. We have all the infrastructure behind it. We have all of the measurement pieces that we need in place. We've not really convinced advertisers to think of out of home. And I'll caveat this, I don't deal with a lot of local advertisers. I'm speaking from a national advertiser perspective. We've done a lousy job at convincing national advertisers, whether it's through education or through new capabilities or whatever it is, at advertising at scale. We're still spending money in 2 to 5 markets. Maybe we're fortunate enough to get to 10. We're not running things at scale, not nearly enough scale to then feed back into the models that all these advertisers are using to develop budgets for next year. I'm not saying I'm standing up here with the answer. I'm saying that between those capabilities that have evolved, and I think we've all got a great idea of how we can use them, we're all educating I don't know the answer. We need to get better at driving that scale. And I think that's the focus, at least in my head, for our next year as an industry. How the heck do we get national advertisers to think of us outside? When you said buying boards, that's still how we're thought of, right? They're buying that location, that spot, that unit, and we have a lot of premium, gorgeous stuff in this industry, which is amazing for that. Now, how the hell do we get you to buy 1,000 of those really great, gorgeous units across the country? Sorry for the grandstand diatribe, but I think that's when you're asking about how I sort of piece together and build on this, the parts are there. I don't think we've nailed the story, but the parts are there. How privacy is going to impact this today, I don't know, maybe it's different for everyone else in the room or other people in the room. I haven't seen a huge issue with MAID deprecation. It hasn't really impacted our ability to drive audiences. It hasn't impacted our ability for attribution. But we're not alone in this. There will likely be a more walled garden approach as we go into the future, where we're going to have to rely more and more on walled gardens for what data they're willing to give us. It might mean that they're handling more of the processing. It might mean that they're coming back with results instead of us figuring it out ourselves. But the same way the digital ecosystem has to evolve and figure out where they're getting information. If we want to be that digitized channel, that's an easier way to say it, for me anyway. If we want to be that digitized channel, we are going to need to evolve with those data sources, and it's all the same sources. They turned you off.
I think when we talk about getting out of home to a nationalized, to scale, I think getting it to a digital platform actually helps achieve getting it to that scale, because now you actually have the ability to buy this inventory programmatically. The boards can be rotational. So now we can actually cover much larger geographies more succinctly and in a much more targeted way through the use of digital buying, like the kind of traditional digital buying tactics that we've all become accustomed to in the web space. And so now I can actually extend my budget more relevantly to more markets through using digital channels. So I don't have to buy a 4-week perm. I can actually now buy a rotational messaging within certain times of day, certain days of week, and actually extend my budget more on a national scale than buying like 3, 4, 5 markets and sinking all of my money straight just into that singular platform. So yeah, I mean, I think the more we digitize this, the more opportunity we give ourselves for buying against the right audiences, collecting the right amount of data, being able to come back and prove to our clients that this stuff is working, because it does. It works extremely well. We actually launched an initiative at Stagwell about a little less than a year ago, where we literally built a homegrown digital out-of-home retail media network. So we launched this product to our clients, working with our partners at Talon. And we basically we built a planning tool that has all of the various inputs in terms of buying audiences, where they are, who they are, how they're consuming, what time of day, what day of week, what weather conditions may be, you name it. We have all the different variables to plan against it. And then we took basically the entire pool of digital out-of-home inventory, and we actually ran a 4-week program for Mother's Day with Fossil watches. And it was one of the most impactful programs they had the entire year. We looked at, it was an 8% purchase intent lift in a 4-week program. And that was just through the use of digital out of home, driving people in store to convert. So these mediums can be used to drive brand awareness. You find the right geography, you find the storefronts, you have the right creative messaging, and you can drive people in store to actually convert. This has been something they've continued to invest in. We have a number of clients who are investing in these platforms, just because we all hear about the out-of-home retail networks, or the digital retail networks, that we can use these kind of silos of data and use the web to be able to drive them for online purchase. But people are out shopping, and people that want to go and look, feel, touch products that they're buying, much the contrary to some Gen Zs who might just be buying on their phones. But these are truly impactful moments that we have the opportunity to get in front of our clients and change their minds about the purchase considerations that they're making. And it's through utilizing the data, the reporting, and the insights we're getting, and then being able to report back on actual true impact to business is why that was the ultimate goal. And everything we've seen from this digital out-of-home retail media network has been, I mean, the results have been lights out.
That, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. So then, Clive, based on everything that they said, what are some of the new innovations or products from Outfront that you think would
Well, listen, let me just
satisfy
feed
their?
off what John said. I listen, and
Announcing the Outfront Retail Network.
I am actually. I'm announcing today. Listen, retail networks for me, it's not about the medium. It's about the consumers and the data. So if you're Amazon, you know, you're sitting on so much data that feeds out of home actually. And I think that's the biggest single challenge for out of home or opportunity is actually where we get that data from and how it informs things like DCO, digital creative optimization in real time against real-time audiences against digital screens that then tie to everything that's sitting in the palm of your hand. Listen, just to answer Michael, because I haven't got the answer, but I think it's about three things. It's about audience. At the moment, majority of out of home is not sold against audience. People aren't talking about audience. It's fundamental, it's basic. We have to understand. So again, I'm not going to sing Outfront's praises, but we've got a geospatial location-based data management platform. Every billboard has a view shed. We track mobile IDs. We understand who goes through that view shed, and we can start to measure back-end attribution metrics, app downloads, store visits, tune-ins, etc. So that's where we've all got to go. It's not just about us. So there's audience is primary. It's really fundamental. The next bit is about automation. So you talked about digital. I think we've got to automate the whole industry, static included, by the way. It's interesting, by 2027, the US market, $330 billion market, you know, huge proportion of it obviously is going to be digital. I'm talking about the media market. 91% of all digital in the US by 2027 will be bought programmatically. We at the moment are tinkering with programmatic. There's going to be more zeros on the end of all of our programmatic businesses. Programmatic's the future. So if we're not on board with it, we're not going to have a business. But I also think there's going to be multiple channels. So for example, we're going to have a programmatic channel. You know, we've built an ad server. So I think being able to offer brands and agencies direct access through an ad server of real-time audiences, again, against core audiences and against creative is another option. And finally, we need to connect. We need to connect all of our assets so that the agency, the buy side, can see our assets in real time, pricing and availability. And that's going to be another opportunity. So we have to drive automation, not individually, but collectively. And the final bit is attribution, which is all about outcomes. You know, what did it actually do? How does it create the feedback loop, either to mixed media modeling or direct to a brand? You know, I was on stage last week with Ashley Shapiro from American Eagle, and the way I love the way she talked about her audience and the outcomes. She talked about reach, not just am I reaching people, but am I reaching the right people? She talked about resonation. You know, what's happening with, you know, what the audience takes from the ad. And the final thing, she talked about response, which is, you know, what does it make them do? And I love the way that she sort of ties the whole loop together. She's a big advocate of out of home, American Eagle, big advocate of out of home, but only in the context of everything else they do, because they understand it has to tie together. It has to tie together, whether it's with social amplification or whether it's using out of home to magnify their social the other way. So I think from my perspective, that's the way I try and sort of coin it, which is really audience, automation, and attribution.
Amen.
Okay, so then, because I would love to open up the, questions and floor, but before that, given everything that you said, and before I came to the 4A's, I started and ran one of the largest programmatic groups. So I come from the digital side of the business. I don't want to bring up the measurement word, but that's where all of this sort of will come to either fruition or not fruition. My question to all three of you is based on the discussion thus far. What do you think needs to happen for out of home? Because everyone in the room, everyone in the industry agrees that out of home is large, it's great, it performs, it works, we should have more of it, and yet it is a line item bought separately, even now. So what as buyers and as a seller, what do you think needs to happen for it to be integrated? Because we all want it to be integrated.
Toss the hot potato to you, man. That's a tough one. Big shot.
What, what you both said is right, and Clive, I really do appreciate audience attribution, automation in the middle, and I think that's where the programmatic part sits. This isn't if you build it, they will come, right? We can apply audience data. You just talked about case studies of how well it's working. Ashwini, to your point, it's got to resonate. And I think part of what you were saying before, Clive, right? There's all these things we can do for clients. For the agency people in the room, we don't get that as the brief very often. So the brief is not asking us to deliver a specific audience that you would see in digital. It's not asking us many times for a response metric, the likes of which we can deliver, but aren't often asked for. And the reality is, at least on our side, I would love to say I get to spend half my time being proactive running forward as opposed to reactive. The reality is no half the time to do that and really pitch those proactive opportunities. We're busy responding to things that don't change perception of out of home and in fact are reinforcing the old ways of thinking about it. We need, as an industry, with sort of this moment, this story, whatever it is, to really go forward and pitch that proactive, here's all you can do. There's a lot of one-off attribution case studies, right? There's people here with companies that have libraries of hundreds or 1,000 of them. It's great that we get to use them for the next time that annual campaign comes around. But how do we turn the 1-month campaign into a 12-month campaign over the course of time, of course? So again, I don't know that the story's nailed. I certainly can't claim to have done that. There's got to be a way, and it's a perception issue. It's not a technology issue. It's not an are we hooked in issue. It's not even a can we measure kind of issue. It's a storytelling and a perception issue that we need to make a massive move in how people think about home.
Yeah, and I think additionally, I mean, stop using media mix modeling where I find out how effective my stuff was 6 months after it ran. It's like the more we digitize these channels, the more opportunity we have to deliver real-time insights, to deliver real-time consumer impact and insight. Like, I can't be looking 6 months back to understand how my consumers are going to react 2 to 3 weeks ahead of me. And so being able to pull more information and data together to be able to build the case, but building the case is the most critical part. And in building that case, it comes the education and the understanding of like, how is this affecting your overall media mix? Where does it strategically fit in the goals and objectives of your clients and of your clients' campaigns? And how do you best leverage the creative landscape that you have, which is becoming better and better? I mean, everything from 3D projection to AR experiences to, I mean, you name it. The technology is there to create really eye-catching, eye-grabbing, like just attention-grabbing executions. But I think it's the education on how how it threads through the entire business strategy that clients have, rather than just like, this is how we achieved a campaign reach goal. Like, I want to know, like, it's that thread. How does it thread all together, and how does 1 + 1 = 3? It's a horrible analogy, but like, how does this up level everything that we're doing, and what is the overall impact that we're delivering through these channels, and how are they complementing everything else that we're doing? Because these things don't live in a vacuum, and they can't be measured in silos. They have to be measured as collective impact, and each channel will have a different collective impact. And it's stop looking at 6 months worth of old historical data in order to tell me how to do it, when the actual mechanisms for real-time information and insights are there.
Wow. Listen, we've got to get rid of the transaction, is my view. Meaning all the human intervention that currently takes place, that's what's got to be transformed in our business. And I think the way we do that is by collaboration. Collaboration across the buy side and the sell side. Collaboration with customers. And you asked the question at the start about education. The fact that Christine's here, some clients really get it. They really do. They understand the power of out of home. So I think the more people like Christine that we can get as advocates of the medium, championing the medium, the fact that we've got a brand council with the OAAA, the fact that there's a CRO council, a CMO council, you know, we've got to cross collaborate between companies and between buy side and sell side. But ultimately, automation, listen, in the next few years, I think we're going to go through the transformation that we do not understand yet. This industry is fundamentally going to change. Because if you think about all the pieces that are around the industry, all the small startup companies that have got all this tech, you know, that it's going to impact, you know, the bulk of the industry, number one. Number two, consolidation. This US market is very unconsolidated. It's going to consolidate. We're going to have fewer, bigger players in the US market. We shouldn't be scared of that. We should be hopeful because actually that's what's going to drive the opportunity to connect with more brands and more agencies. And you know, and I think what I said earlier, just about the level of, we're at the early stages, the nascent stages of sort of everything coming together. You know, automation, creative, AI, it's all going to happen in the next 3 years. So we're either on the bus, riding the bus, or we're at the front trying to drive the bus. And I think all of us have got to decide, you know, what we want to be really, because it's our opportunity. You know, if you look around the rest of the world, I know Nick's here, you know, he's got a very global view. You know, if you look at Asia, you know, Asia is like 12 to 15% out of home. Look at Europe, you know, it's 10 to 12% out of home. The US hasn't moved. And it's quite interesting you talk about national advertisers, because guess what? The local advertisers, we have 60,000 local advertisers. By God, do they get out of home? They really do. So, you know, it's a huge opportunity that all of us can, you know, can really benefit from in the next few years.
That last segment was so inspirational. I don't want to open up the floor for questions. Plus, we run out of time. But I think this last exchange is definitely worth an additional conversation, because I agree things are going to change. Question is, if the brief does not change, it doesn't matter if robots paint the roofs. We'll still not measure it the way out-of-home deserves to be measured and integrated across the board. So hopefully it all works, and the next time we bring the three of you together, I'm sure we'll have a different story to share. So on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, while we work on the,
Check.
oh, does that work?
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you. I would love to now invite Christy Schlepp, CEO at ODN. Hi.
Even though this thing.
I don't do big anything. Man, I love your nail polish color. I know, it's beautiful. No, it's on.
Hello.
No.
Hello,
Yeah, there you go.
friends. Hi. Hello.
I'm going to wait for the wings to kind of settle down so we can get the conversation started.
Yes.
We wanted to set up a fireside with Christy for two reasons. One is I recently got to meet the ODN team when they all attended Decisions last year. But also, as I was speaking with Christy, and I have questions for you, but the conversation will go.
Please ask away.
Yeah. Having started businesses before, I was very inspired by your story of, you know, you starting a business in this out-of-home industry, which is was not traditionally women-friendly. You took over the business 5 years ago. You've transformed it to this powerhouse that it is right now.
Yeah.
And so that's my first question to you is, A, how do you do it? And what have been some of the best practices that you have implemented so that ODN as a business, you know, is successful and where it is right now?
Right, no, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be up here today and so lovely seeing so many friends and, you know, this would not be possible without all of you all in this room, but, I would go back, so I've been in this industry about 2 decades. So I began hi, how are you? Good to see you. I began my career actually printing billboards. So I worked at Circle Graphics for about 10 years, and so I knew a lot of you guys from like printing them. So, and I'm not gonna go on and on because I can get chatty. I can see Allie, she's like, cut to the chase. She mutes me often, but opportunity of a lifetime. My business partner, Doug Connor, had grown the ODN agency. It was Outdoor Nation. Day one, I changed the name from Outdoor Nation to ODN. Like, let's make it hip, cool, like try to be cool, right? But he gave me an opportunity and said, hey, if you can double the gross profit of this company, you can own half of it. So I took a huge 6-figure pay cut and I'm like, sure, I've grown 2 other organizations. And so I showed up here in July of 2019. And I'm like, I got this, I can do it, right? And began my journey, went to see all my existing clients, set out on a journey, and guess what happened? What happened in March of 2020? Remember, Joel, remember what happened?
Yeah.
March of 2020. So mind you, remember my goal was double gross profit. So I was on it. World shutdown. I'm like, oh, good. You can understand too, right? I'm like, thanks, Doug. Thanks for the opportunity. So, anyway, I hired this wonderful human, Allie Broback, here in the front row, and she was gonna come on and help me. Like, hey, can you help me pitch? Can you help me put decks together? Can you help with my travel plans? And soon she set up 13 meetings in Minneapolis. This woman knows everybody. She's on the ad council in Minneapolis. We go on 13 sales calls. We close 11 of them. I'm like, okay, your help as my assistant's over. You go ahead and like, now she's our chief client officer. She's a partner. We're now women owned, which is, I'm so beyond proud of. But, anyway, see, this is where I get distracted. Margarita's like, stay on track. I can see you. So, anyway, long story short, I'm going to cut all the way to the chase. We now have 60 employees. We've tripled top line revenue. We've tripled gross profit. And it's a little thing called OD. It's called Outdoor End to End. It's also Doug's favorite cartoon character. Ask him about it later. But we've simplified the out-of-home buying experience across the entire board. So, yeah, I'm just super proud of all of our team members, and it's been a journey, Ashwini.
So what you said at the end and the last discussion about, the opportunity is endless.
Yeah.
Things need to happen. ODN operates in the local space and the national space.
Yeah.
Can you speak to some of the trends at the local space? So I'm not an out-of-home person, but
Yeah.
media person.
We're getting you there.
Right. No. What I realize is local out-of-home is a real estate question first.
Yeah.
And then a creative question next.
Yeah.
National out-of-home thinks about big ideas, creative, then let's go find the location. And so what are some of the new trends that you are seeing that people in the room should be aware of and can take note of as you grow the business overall?
Yeah, so we're very unique, Ashwini, in the fact that we at ODN, we still buy hyperlocal. So although I know Clive and we're BFFs, and I know James and all the people like on a national level, we still negotiate on a local level. So we still go to Reed Saunders with Outfront in Denver. Like, they're our buddies. So that is what differentiates us, is that we still, because 70% of out of home is still bought on a local level, that's what we do. But as far as trends go, it's also keeping up. I mean, thank goodness for Mark Miller and Clive and Ian, like understanding from a national perspective, like digital direct and understanding like all these differentiators of what we can provide to our clients and solutions is top of mind. So whilst we work locally, we are also working on these national initiatives that are game changing.
So do you see local out of home digitizing as fast as national, or is there a different path trend?
Oh, it's a great question. We are digitalizing as much as we can. So we take such a consultative approach. So it's like not one size fits all. So if you're dealing with like a QSR brand, if you're dealing with a insurance brand, like we will come to the market, we will go to the market. The market dictates to us what we present and what we recommend. So it's not like one size fits all.
This is the favorite agency question. I'm sure many of the agencies in the room will feel for the question
I'm
as
sure
well.
they do.
Is
a road.
out of home is such a fabulous medium.
It is.
So big, so broad, so many things.
Mhm.
Yet the budget is pretty limited
Oh,
at any given point.
amen. Yes.
So two questions. One is, what have been some of the cool, innovative ideas that ODN has presented? You know, wanting to get to a really big reach while the budget is limited.
Holy smokes.
And what role would data or tech play now and in the future to really help you expand overall?
Huh. Let me take you back to a story. So it was March of 2021, masks were coming off, right? And I get a call from Gina Sisk. Jennifer is the wonderful Wendy's representative in the room here. But she called me and she said, hey, have you guys, raise of hands, anybody heard of the Milwaukee Bucks here in the room? Anybody? You big Bucks fan? You've heard of them. Ian, what about you? So literally this woman called me, it was 6 a.m. my time, she's East Coast, I'm in Colorado. And she calls me and she's like, hey, Christy. And whenever Gina calls, I answer my phone. And she goes, hey, I literally was thinking of you all night. I'm like, wonderful. What were you thinking about me about? So she's like, hey, so we've done the Milwaukee Bucks. So anytime the Milwaukee Bucks win, everybody in the town gets a free Frosty. So they've done all the things. They've done, you know, TV, rate every other medium other than out of home. They've never done out of home. And she's like, don't kill me. I'm like, Gina, I'm not gonna kill you. You're my client. And she's like, hey, let's go up after every Bucks win. I'll give you 7 games. Problem is, I only have $1,000 a night. Like $1,000 to cover 35% of the population in Milwaukee? Best of luck, pal. And I didn't hang up on her. I hung up and I called Jen. I'm like, Jen, what do you think? She's like, you're nuts. I'm like, I know I'm nuts. I'm always nuts. So I called my dear friend Ian and I said, Ian, I have $1,000. We need to reach 35% of the population. Guess what? He's like, I'm in. We have this feed with the NBA. So very proud to say that we ended up going up on 10 digital billboards. And again, you're like nodding, $1,000, nothing, right? And so proud to say redemptions went up from like 84 per game to like 1,400. Like it was sheer, like you could see our medium working. And so what I'm here to share with you guys is $1,000. If you have great partners like Lamar, Ian, I went to Clive in St. Louis, same situation with the St. Louis Blues. We had approved hockey work too. So I guess the biggest message is that our partners are here, like proving our medium is like a path I'm on, a mission I'm on in life, because it works. Sorry, I'll keep going if you want me. What do you guys think?
We could keep going. Haley will not let me go from here if I keep going.
I'll
So,
keep going. Ally, are you muting me yet? Wait, am I okay? Okay.
last question to you.
Yes.
Because we do have a cool.
You have more?
round of afterwards. Yes, we have one more session now. Given your journey and given where you are right now, and
Yeah.
you know, pre-COVID when you said yes, and then you're like, what should I do now? What
I'm
would
like,
be
I
a
don't know
message
what I could do. Yeah.
your younger self from 10 years ago. How
If
many
I like
years ago?
switch my
You're already
numbers
young,
and
but
age.
a
No, I'm old.
baby infant, yeah.
Okay.
What would be the message to that person as
Oh,
she embarks
heavens.
on this whole?
Man, I wish I could go back to 24 years old. I do. I think who in the room wants to? I would love, Joel, you want to? Margarita's like, no way. But here's what I would say is, and take my advice or don't take it, but I have always had, I mean, this is vulnerable, like I've always had such a hard time trusting people. So when people are like, I've got it, I'm like, I always was looking over their backs. I mean, even as Ally came on as a partner, I'm like, did you send it? Did you do it? I would say trust people and be disappointed once in a while. In fact, not trusting makes you absolutely miserable. So I spent a lot of years of my career miserable because I didn't trust people. And so the fact of the matter is, when I started trusting people, like we went kaboom, and we continue to go kaboom. And so that would be the advice that I would give my younger self, is stop micromanaging, like trust people. It doesn't always work, but I will tell you, it works more than it doesn't work. So I love our team. I love like big-hearted, like give a shit, care about people, give them a hug, tell them thank you more often than you don't. And that's the foundation of ODN and our culture that I'm trying to continually expand.
That's fantastic. On that note, congratulations and, much success to all of you. I would love to invite the next panel because I know.
She's like, get off the stage.
If I could invite Brian Law, Ian, the famous Ian, and then Martin Porter, and Jeff is going to moderate.
Check 1 2 1, check 1 2 1. Keep on checking until we get up here. Check 1 2 1.
Hello. Well, looks like Ashwini is passing the mic over to me, passing the buck, if you will. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. It's that time of the. Thank you for some of the laughter there, but I'm gonna put this on for a sec here. All right, I like what she did. She held it up. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys, Martin, Ian, Ryan, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. All right, we're home stretch. Our last panel discussion here, just to set it up, of course, driving success, but really unifying or uniting the out-of-home space. And this, in a way, bookends or provides that kind of lead into some of the questions that we have that, really it's about the creativity, the context, the technology, the collaboration. And I'm going to start with you, Mark, because you led a panel at the out-of-home media conference earlier this year in Carlsbad on this media, was it versus? I wanted to call it like media and creative, but it was a bit of the media versus creative. So what kind of top takeaways can you share with us?
Sure. First of all, this is like a bad Backstreet Boys reunion. I love it.
I mean, I want it that way. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, no, it was really good to do that panel back in Carlsbad, and I wish we'd had more time to talk about it then. So I'm glad we're talking more about it now. Yeah, yes, is it media versus creative, media and creative? Of course, it's both, right? We have to, the best campaigns reach, we've said it a million times, the right people in the right place with the right message. And I think what out of home is really good at, and we need to be better at, is thinking about the context and the location, right? This isn't, I know we can say, right, I get a TikTok ad or whatever, and I'm on my phone and you can geo-target it and all of these things. But there is still a thing of when we're out of home for a lot of hours a day, the context of our behaviors and what we're doing is really changes throughout that day, right? Your journey here today will be very different to what you're thinking on your journey home from today. So I do think that sort of the contextual moment and choosing that location is really important about, maximizing the effect of a campaign. And one other thing on top of that, which I don't think we do enough of still in digital out of home,
is using data cues and signals to actually change creative in real time. Let's hyper localize it, hyper contextual, and let's think about, I can put an ad out for a screen outside this building that is going to talk to not me individually, because we can't do that, but can be talking about where we're at, the time of the day, the location, what's the weather like, what's the traffic like, a whole bunch of other cues that can really add context to make media and creative work so close together. Long answer, probably didn't really.
Oh, no, that was great.
But
Very contextual, very relevant. I think that's part of, unlocking what success might look like within the out-of-home, environment. So to kind of bridge that moment for Ryan here is, you recently joined Talent as CEO of North America, and you're known for a lot of great tech and how to build that into context, to location, and of course, bringing that creative and that brand into the out-of-home world. And so to that point, where would you see or would like to see the innovation and collaboration really bring out-of-home together going forward, going into the future?
Yes, okay, so I think it's more about focusing on collaboration to this question. So I left out of home for about 5 years. I've been here for about an hour now, and I've kind of been hearing a lot of the same things that I heard 5 years ago. And it's not from a lack of effort or goodwill or grit or intention or investment or innovation. It's, I think it's been the wrong type of collaboration in a lot of ways. I think if we look around the room, and I see a lot of, familiar faces now, and it's, I think out-of-home's always been guilty of thinking they're competing against the person who's next to them and competing against, other out-of-home, whether they are media owners or agencies or, technology platforms. And the reality is, if you look around the room and think about the person next to you as not as your competitor, but as your partner, we'd probably move this thing further a lot faster. Because really, in reality, from what I've seen on the other side and making investments against other formats, you're competing against something much larger than out of home. And quite honestly, from a share perspective, we're going backwards. And you're going to have a very difficult time competing against some of the things that our holding companies specifically and clients are focusing on. So we really have to think about collaborating and partnering with someone who you think might be your competitor today. So that's technology platforms, media owners, and starting to think about how you can get creative and how you go to market commercially. And obviously how you're then, obviously a lot of that translates into what's happening in the creative space. Going back not too long ago, much of creative was first kind of specced out and sorted out by brands and creative agencies with out-of-home in mind first. If we can get it right on a billboard in 4 words or less, we can probably figure out a 30-second TV spot. So, that's not the case anymore. So we really have to think about how we bring creative further into that conversation, get out-of-home further upstream with creative agencies, have out-of-home integrated with content creators, influencers. Certainly that's where brands are filtering their money to now. So how does that all play into it, rather than just out-of-home being like the last stop and where it lands? And how do we make out-of-home part of that conversation when creative is being generated? I think that part, all feeding into from just a real collaboration standpoint, is thinking about how we collaborate, and kind of resetting that in general.
That was great. I think when you built in the collaboration as that thread, that's where we have to get out of those particular way of, the 5 years ago syndrome, right? To get ahead, we have to put some of these things aside. And I know that, some of the things that we've done out in the marketplace from a OAAA standpoint, we go out to the local markets, we talk about out-of-home as a whole, as working together. And, being able to do that is something that, we've seen really shine and grow. And so, Ian, this goes to that very point of that collaboration, whether it's local, it's national, agencies, brands. How are we supposed to, get through and change that sentiment from 5 years ago syndrome situation? What's the nerve, man?
Yeah, I get bored in this. I was sitting in a meeting with VaynerX in LA last week, and not to go 5 years back, but I was 15 years ago, we started doing weather-triggered digital out-of-home campaigns. And VaynerX was like, no shit, you can trigger creative. So I think it lends itself, I say I'm bored because it's kind of like, okay, it's a constant education. That's the easiest checkbox. But I think we're starting to do a great job, thanks to programmatic, with the ability to overlay data. Now we're starting to become a part of the conversation. We're not this siloed media off, but now we start to have the opportunity. So for me, it's really about how do we jump on that? And what I mean by jump on that, I spent some time with Paul Wilmington at Canvas, the CEO, and he said, this is purely about telling the story. We get so excited about data, like, hey, we can measure now. We can measure out of home, like, come pick us. But then also we forget the fact that how amazing we are in the creative landscape, right? I mean, nothing's more beautiful than a 14 by 48 sitting on the side of the road. So Paul's point and the collaboration point is, how do we methodically tell this story with both data and creativity to where we're not offsetting the C-suite and the people, the CFOs that are making these investments, but really like there's a reason and rationale why out of home should be a part of this omni-channel journey. We're proving this out programmatically, where now we can start to say, you know, the focus that I have, which is very futuristic, it's like, okay, just how Meta can optimize in real time throughout a campaign, and now we're sitting on that suite and an opportunity. Why not take out of home and have that in real time optimized throughout the campaign? Obviously, we don't want to optimize every moment in time, but maybe it's a week, maybe it's 4 weeks. So now we start to see budgets move up and down on the digital side.
All right, so I'm gonna go from collaboration, budgets, dynamic technology, using data in a different way to Sir Martin here on, all right, how do we then build that into, because this is something that Ashwini and I were talking about for the 4A's summit next year about, you know, creativity being the next new like KPI. And so from all of that, like how do we then build that future forward look into, well, how can we measure creativity as the next, you know, business outcome, if you will?
Good question. Don't have an answer. That's it. Done.
Only putting you on the spot, that's all, yeah.
No, I did. Well, it's tough, right? And I don't know if we do have an answer yet. And there's also two parts to this. I'm going to split out in terms of creative in its purest form of what goes on a billboard. There's already some testing and things we can do. But if we want to talk about, I'm going to broaden it and say creativity, creative and media together, you can be really creative with your media plan. And I think we have to go back to what is the outcome? What are we trying to actually achieve as a KPI? What's the business challenge that we're doing for before we measure anything else? So I don't think like Ponce's still here, but he'll remember I used to work with him 100 years ago in the UK, and we sold the London Underground, and they had cross-track posters, and we used to do this big thing about long copy. You know, Ryan just mentioned the gold standard of like 4 words on a billboard. This was about telling creatives, hey, you can put 100 words on a billboard because people will stand here for 4 minutes every day in the same spot. So actually, you can then start going, well, if you put that creative on the side of a road, it would be dreadful, it would be awful. So you can start going, let's think, it goes back to the context of what am I thinking as a consumer, and what am I doing? And actually, is that kind of a measure of creativity where it's marrying the creative with the media to see what the outcome is? Because that context of where you're standing makes a huge big difference of how that ad is going to be taken in by a consumer. So
there's the level of lean in based off of evolving outcomes from a business perspective. And I think this is that almost inflection point of, well, what could be a new metric? Because we're reading about the attention, economy, where the engagements, and it's like it's evolving to a place. I would love to get your thoughts, starting with you, Ian. Like, where are we seeing these evolution of whether they're metrics or new KPIs?
Yeah, I would agree. I think having a 13-year-old month younger than me brother who's an artist and owns a gallery, we talk about it all the time. He said the biggest challenge that we have in the out-of-home space is also our success, right? It's you have this opportunity where you can wow a consumer, stop them in their tracks, right? I love the comment earlier that we're not running away from a billboard, but the complexity comes in where we want to measure everything. Sometimes it's just intuitive, right? I don't think we give creative teams the enough opportunity to just flex their muscles, have fun. I say it's complex because it's not only are you, okay, hey, we've targeted that specific audience based on the time and we have all this plethora of data. That's fantastic. But what we don't realize is the environment that ad is in. And then now we're talking about, are you driving 75 miles an hour and you're headed to the beach? Are you standing in Times Square? Are you sitting in the subway? And I think oftentimes, one of the panelists said it earlier, it's just, let's spread the creative across. It's out of home. Yes, the formats are a little bit wonky, but I think we need to take a step back and sometimes start to think like, we don't need to measure everything. We just really need to tell the story of the environment that's around it and be very meticulous, right? So whether you have airports, you're at a gas station, you're at a roadside billboard, or you're standing in Times Square, the moment that you're in that moment, the environment plays a massive role. Like I'm pumping gas, I really don't care about the ad. But if you tell me something about, hey, the next 3 exits, you're gonna see this, and by the way, here's an influencer, that's compelling to me. So I think we need to be careful. I know I bucked your whole question, but I think we have to be careful to like measure every single thing.
I gotcha. All right. So let's evolve that storytelling. You know, is this part of the collaboration? Is it the storytelling? Is it the data? How do you talk with your clients on wrapping their head around, well, it's not about the next new metric, but it is about storytelling perhaps?
Well, it is a political season, so I'll just pivot to whatever I want to talk about as well.
Do it. Go for it.
No, I see the opportunity. If you take a step back, I see the opportunity, and a big part of why I came back to Out of Home is I see it unfolding in 2 ways. One, it's no secret, holding companies, advertisers, direct, are all focusing majority of their attention to very low funnel metrics, outcomes, very highly addressable media formats and delivery. And what's happening with that is something that I think sometimes in Out of Home we don't realize. They're having a really hard time with it. The lower the funnel you go, the harder it is to perform, the harder it is to measure, the harder it is to price right. That becomes extremely difficult for everybody. But now they've already made this investment in talent and technology, so they can't necessarily pivot off that, right? But what they can do is understand that, and what they're finding is a big part of that challenge is also the advertisers themselves are losing their sense of brand because they're going so far down the funnel and they're investing so hard into whether it's social or creator or viral, and it's really becoming very difficult for consumers to understand what the brand is actually trying to say, what they stand for anymore. So bringing that back, and by the way, Out of Home can perform on an outcome-based level, just as well as majority of other media formats. Any holding company, any advertiser saying they're doing really low funnel performance, really low, high outcomes performance, they're probably fibbing it or faking it a little bit, and most of the time they're probably just getting back to price, so like a guaranteed CPM or something like that, right? Out of Home can perform on a price level. In terms of like a cost per acquisition or something lower, that really becomes a two-way street in terms of the brand understanding what they want to do with their creative. And it goes back to my earlier point, and a lot of what's been said here today, it's getting Out of Home more involved in the conversation with people who are generating creative, and it's not just creative agencies anymore, right? So it's influencers and whoever it might be. On the other side of that though, I think there's a big opportunity coming back to what Out of Home has always been inherently good at, and that is driving brand. And that's why you see, outside of all that low performance investment, all the rest of the money is being dumped into live sports and entertainment and experiential, and then really really high profile video formats, so Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, things like that. I think Out of Home plays can be a really nice piece of that puzzle and complete that puzzle in terms of driving brand and allowing brands at a very attractive cost point and be very efficient compared to some of those other formats like live sports entertainment or premium video or whatever it might be. So I see it really shaping out in 2 ways, and Out of Home having this opportunity across both, being able to perform on a lower funnel basis with the right education and all the things that you guys have heard today, but also back on the brand side and being outside and performing alongside some of the more premium formats, which is nice because some of the bigger, bolder, impactful stuff that Out of Home's always been so great at fits so well with those other formats and the way they deliver. It's really about making it frictionless though for brands to activate on either side of that coin, right? So obviously we have to be able to provide opportunities to activate against those formats in those environments on a brand level, and then also be frictionless in a programmatic biddable environment and activate across as many of the platforms as possible, whether it's Out of Home specific or omni-channel, so that they can deliver on the outcome or higher performance basis.
Now, you went 360 there. So yes, absolutely. Political season, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, there's just so much. And I think part of what Out of Home can do in so many different ways is what is so exciting about it. So how do we really then again drive those success points, across that entire journey, whether it's from the first brief all the way to, of course, the measuring of the outcomes. So I wanted to actually pivot a little bit here on, because we're getting down to the wire, but I also wanted to open it up for questions because I saw a few faces there that really wanted to ask a few questions to this group. So wanted to see if anyone is willing to raise their hands. You gave me a look earlier, but I'm not gonna call you out right here. Here, no, not at all. Here you go.
Daniel with Broadsign. First of all, amazing session. This has been great, every panel. Something that you said earlier really made me think of, and it popped in my head last year, here in New York, and I think it was last year, we had the wildfires in Canada that brought down all the smoke into New York. I'm not a video gamer, but I think it was Doom who capitalized on it and said, the sky is, red, change our creative, run it, hell is here, I think is what the campaign said, like, hell is upon us. It got social, it got outdoor, like, it really blew up just from taking advantage of the times and the environment that we were in. More for, Ryan and Martin, when you're talking to your partners and your brands, knowing that we're in this ever-changing world where, weather, political, all these things are changing on a daily basis, are you planning ahead for those things? Are you setting aside budget? Are you at the beginning of your planning session saying, hey, here are things that may happen that will resonate with our brand? How are you kind of attacking those moments?
I'd say no, on the basis of we would love this, right? To say to a client at the beginning of the year, hey, keep 5%, 10%, whatever of your budget assigned so that we can pivot in the moment. Some brands, depending on the type of brand, would probably go, hey, that sounds a great idea. Some people would just be like, I'm just not willing to do that. So I don't think there's a one size fits all. I do think out of home is brilliant at capturing those moments. And we know the hundreds of examples of where things then go hugely viral based on that. I still want us as an agency to have that creative thought with our clients and to keep out of home top of mind. I think we have to balance it with, we don't want out of home just to be known for, hey, I can do a stunt, or hey, I put this big creative up in one location so I can win a gold lion. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not, we want clients to be coming in going, I'm active 52 weeks of the year, or here's my 50 market budget. So definitely want to always talk about those creative viral moments, but just walk a fine line of don't want everyone to think that's all that out of home is good for.
Yeah, everything Martin said, obviously, is spot on. I think only thing I would add to that is you're gonna have to always be ready, right? You have to, I've heard education 1,000 times today. It's about making sure your clients and your respective media teams understand capabilities in out of home. But then it's also, when you're in those conversations, helping manage their expectations and not to be too precious about the delivery. So you want to do something like this, it's not going to deliver on this KPI, it's not going to be, it might cost a lot of money, it might be this, don't try and fix it, don't try and jam it into some model you have, it won't work. And I think that's, a lot of times, we kind of try to overcompensate being out of home, thinking that we need to fight for a bigger part of the budget because we can't do something that other formats can do, and the reality is, they don't do it that very well either. So our ability to do that, so it's really about having building a comfort level with your client and your teams to understand that to really be great out of home, you're gonna have to like kind of make some compromises, probably with respect to the other things you're investing in from a media perspective.
Yeah, no,
It wasn't to me at all, but I don't care.
No, I was gonna get you in on that. Yeah.
No, I do think in an interesting world that we're starting to live in, you kind of touched on influencer content, influencer economy. I do think that that's a unique space. I don't like the idea of like, we got to go get social budgets. Like, that's crazy talk. But I do think the idea is very intriguing. We did a Whataburger campaign recently via TikTok with some of our video assets. So how do we educate influencers that are representing these brands to say, hey guys, not only do I want to be on this small screen, but how amazing would it be, not just Times Square, everybody, people live across the entire US, and have these culturally relevant moments where these influencers are using the medium for what it can be utilized for. And again, it goes back to my initial like education on the opportunity.
So we continue on the roadshow to meet with, holding company agencies to independent agencies, getting in front of, media owners and various, brands, what we call, an out-of-home day. But then we really put I think the next level up at our conference next year in Boston, that that's how we're gonna be able to get more of that perspective, because who would have thought the three of you talking about this, triggered a question on how do we really bring it together, hence the panel's narrative and theme. And so the more we can do that, but then taking a big step back, as Ryan's saying, is that, we have to look forward, because those 5 years seem to be so repetitive. So we need to do this all together. The right folks are in the room to do it together. The agencies, the brands, the media owners coming together. And so with that, I want to thank you, panelists, so much for your perspective today. And so I go ahead and say, all right, well, thank you all for joining us today. We have pretty much the next, what time do we have? Have the next, what's that?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Please mingle, hang out, have conversations, and thanks again for joining. See you next time.
Yeah, and we would love your feedback. We want to make this a recurring event. So send us topics that you would want to hear more of, or, if you want different MCs, etc.
Thank you.